It's been forever, but the Hornets finally cut down their regular season roster to 15, all done with the cuts, at least for now. We'll talk about Spencer Dinwiddie being cut from the team, then answer some Sicko Satchel questions all today. Locked On Hornets.
You are Locked On Hornets, your daily Charlotte Hornets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
In a minute, cuz we live.
It's Locked On Hornets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Thanks for making us your first listen. We're free and available anywhere you get your podcast, and that includes YouTube. There's Doug Branson. You can find him on his Substack, everyhornetsboxscore.com. You can also watch the show he helps produce, Yahoo Sports Daily, with Jason Fitz and Caroline Fenton. I'm Walker Mail. Listen to me, WFNZ, every weekday from 12 to 3 p.m. Sports Radio 92.7 FM. This episode is brought to you by Gametime. Gametime? Download the Gametime app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. I saw a YouTube comment yesterday. He was complaining about how this podcast asked the audience to yell Gametime or ask the other co-host to yell Gametime. He was complaining about it. That is proof that people will complain about anything. That was, honestly, it was jarring to see a comment that was complaining about that very aspect. I just never thought I'd see that. It's so beloved. Anyways, it was kind of a surprising comment. Either way, game time. That's for you, buddy. We're going to shout it out. Unreal.
It was nice to see other commenters jump in and say, no, we love that. Please keep doing that. That was nice. I don't condone bullying any commenters, and I don't think it rose to the level of bullying. But I think he was firm, he or she, they were firmly put in their place.
Just like, what? Is that, you worried about the wrong stuff. That's what we say around here, okay? You're worried about the wrong bleep, and that's being worried about the wrong bleep. All right, Spencer Dinwiddie, no longer on the team, Doug, so they had to cut everybody. I mean, they signed so many players during the offseason. They signed a bunch of guards, all of that, and they needed to get the roster down to 15 before the regular season started. It starts October 22nd. That is their home opener, their season opener, and their home opener against the Nets, and they finally did it. They cut Spencer Dinwiddie just 3 months after signing him to a one-year, $3.6 million deal. That was, again, in early July, and this was always going to be a case, cutting it down to 15. The last cut was always going to be Pat Connaughton or Spencer Dinwiddie. It was always going to be those two pinned against one another. I'm not surprised that it's Spencer Dinwiddie. I thought it would be Pat Connaughton. Now, you could have gone either way on this. I thought it was going to be Connaughton because he was the only player in question that was not acquired specifically for his talents to be used out there on the court. Pat Connaughton, really, at least the big reason why he's on this team is because there was a pick attached to him with Milwaukee wanting to shed salary. So that's why the Hornets got in business with Milwaukee. They traded for Vasa Micic because he had a non-guaranteed deal that would get into their cap space, and then they could release him for more cap space. So it made sense for Milwaukee to attach a pick to Pat Connaughton. Anyways, that's kind of the only reason he's here. And the Hornets did go out and sign Spencer Dinwiddie to that almost $4 million for year deal, just the one season. They went out and got Spencer. They didn't go out really and go get Pat Connaughton. That was the reason why I thought Pat would be the guy. But reality is Pat Connaughton is making $9 million. That helps you grease the wheels on any trades you might want to make. And it means that you can go get some kind of asset. That did always make sense. And there was always the Charles Lee Milwaukee connection with Pat Connaughton. So it was always between those two guys, clearly, Doug. And in the end, they decide Pat Connaughton is going to be on the roster and Spencer Dinwiddie isn't.
In the limited time that I saw Spencer Dinwiddie on the floor, I was very confused by his play. And I'm not often confused by play, particularly from veterans. I mean, sometimes Tijon confuses me, I'll be honest. But that makes sense, right? I mean, he's very young.
Right.
And I think he started basketball late. So a lot of that makes sense. But it didn't make sense to me, some of the things that Spencer Dinwiddie was doing in the early preseason. So I would say that might have something to do with why he was the one that ends up getting cut. I would say more, though, that Trey Mann looked good playing some, backup point facilitator role. Like, he looked good. Colin Sexton's looked amazing. Con Knippel, apart from some turnover issues, has made some really great passes. So I just think they looked at the roster and said, I'm not sure we really need. We've had problems with not having enough point guards in the past, but now I think we're pretty flush and not necessarily in need of Spencer Dinwiddie, and they had to make a cut. And then you mentioned the trade piece. I think this is exciting news for Charlotte Hornets fans that want them to eventually make a deal, maybe even make a midseason deal, because that $9 million is a significant tool to make salary work, and not even necessarily in a one-for-one Charlotte deals with another team, but in so many of the cases where player X, who makes like $50 million, wants to move somewhere, but the teams are hard capped or they're apron capped, and they can't, there's all these rules about how many players can go and how many players can come back. And so that's why these deals can often get a third team, but even a fourth or a fifth team to make all of the parties happy. So, they got to pick, but I think Pat Connaughton could ultimately result in even more picks for the Charlotte Hornets if they get involved in that kind of deal at the trade deadline. And then that, again, facilitates what they could do in the next offseason. So I thought this was going to be the case the whole time, because I just didn't think they were going to give up a $9 million expiring deal for nothing versus whatever Spencer Dinwiddie was making that they signed him to. I just thought this was a no-brainer.
Yeah, 3.6. So a couple things here. Maybe we get to the other point a little bit more so in the second segment, because it's one I think we can chew on a little bit. But who is this a vote of confidence in? One, Trey Mann's health. So Trey Mann has the hip injury. I don't know if you would cut him if there were real concerns about Trey Mann's hip. So that's nice. That's the easy one to go to. Perhaps a little bit more of a deep cut. Who is this a vote of confidence in? What about KJ Simpson? Maybe to a lesser extent, because you have LaMelo, you have Colin. We know about all the two guards here, Trey Mann as well. But also KJ got a little run in the preseason, and still one more game, by the way, before they play the Nets October 22nd. So maybe with KJ being on that two-way contract, he just wouldn't get any run if you really did want to roll with the veteran in Spencer Dinwiddie. And now it's, okay, we have a two-way contract. The value of a two-way is having him going back and forth from Greensboro to Charlotte. If we wanted him to be in Greensboro, then we would just put him on a G League contract and save that two-way for somebody else that we think could give us some minutes with the big boy squad. So perhaps to a lesser extent, maybe you're stretching it a little bit, but it makes sense in my brain. Perhaps a little bit of belief here with KJ, who is the guy that runs through a brick wall for you, who has grown quite a bit, gave you a lot of nice moments in Summer League, and Spencer Dinwiddie no longer on the team, plus the whole trade piece part of it. But yeah, man, I think this is decent for Trey Mann. I think it's decent for KJ Simpson as well. All right, let's move on. Coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
Bees everywhere!
What else does this waiving of Spencer Dinwiddie mean for the Hornets, as well as all of the Exhibit 10 contracts they're handing out and then cutting those players immediately? Why they're doing it, we'll explain it, and why I think it's important. We'll explain that too. Coming up next, LOH. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it gives me so many different ways to play. I've built parlays, I've tried player props, even follow the live lines during the games. That can be fun. It makes watching football even more exciting when you got a little something riding on the action. Whether you're a casual fan or love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. More Locked On Hornets ahead. I'm not sure the waiving of Spencer Dinwiddie means this specifically, Doug, but I am encouraged by it, and here's why. Because the Hornets go out early in free agency, and they signed Spencer Dinwiddie to that 1 year, $3.6 million deal. So it's a pretty small contract. Is that the actual vet minimum Goodness gracious. Minimum. I can speak.
Dave McMenamin.
That's right. That's what got in my head. If it's not the vet minimum, then it's really close to it. So no, I don't want to act like it's this monster contract, but $3.5 million, decent amount. Okay. So you sign him to $3.5 million, and you didn't think he was going to get cut after they gave him that contract right away. You just didn't expect maybe some of the other moves to follow. Now, okay, you're signing somebody in free agency. That usually means you want them to be on the roster. That's how it usually works when you give out that kind of money. We didn't have this conversation with Mason Plumlee. When you signed him, it's not like they're going to cut him immediately. So anyways, then we get to this point. We get to, I would say over the last month or so, we've been hypothesizing it's going to be Spencer Dinwiddie or it's going to be Pat Connaughton, and we went back and forth on some of the reasons why you would cut both. I do wonder if this means that the Hornets, I wonder if this is evidence that the Hornets are more financially motivated to improve this roster and do so at all cost, because you are lighting $3.6 million on fire at this point. You're deciding, we gave him that money. I don't want to sign him and then watch it go away, but I wanted to sign Spencer Dinwiddie. If you're the Hornets brass, we wanted to sign Spencer Dinwiddie because we wanted some guard depth. We wanted to make sure that we had that in the bag, and I guess we'll see how the cards fall as the offseason goes. All right, well, now we don't really need him. Okay, we'll move on. But at least you spent the money. You were over the roster limit, right? We've seen this with Mitch Kupchak constantly. They would leave a roster spot open. You guys know you can go after more players, right? That's a thing you can do. But they would leave it open for trade reasons, whatever. Really just didn't want to pay another salary, possibly. So they were willing to pay that salary, so much so that they're willing to pay it even if he doesn't play for the team, because they wanted to have a fail-safe in case other things might have happened as the offseason goes on. So, okay, here are issues with this team. They haven't had a whole lot of talent the last couple of years, and they've had a whole bunch of injuries to the talent that they do have. Well, what a great thing to do is lock up as much depth as possible, even if it means paying a lot more money to do so. And you get through training camp healthy, you get through the preseason healthy, and then the week of the home opener, the week of the season opener, as long as everybody's good, well, okay, thank you for basically being insurance, Spencer, but we don't need you anymore. Off you go. Here's $3.5 million, please, and thank you. I think that shows a financial commitment that I'm not so sure the former regime would have shown. And this one is, which is encouraging to me, Doug. Is it to you?
Well, it shows both a financial commitment, but not an overcommitment to the financials, right? Because there could have been this idea of, well, we signed him to $3 million, so let's just there. I think the previous regime would have looked at that and said, "Hey, we already paid for it. This is
right.
This is an inside.
Keep him.
You're right. This is an inside joke in my family. Is if I pay for something, I'm going to eat it. Including I paid one time. I went to a restaurant outside of Knoxville, Tennessee, and they had like a wing challenge where there was a super hot wing. It had like capsaicin oil and ghost pepper and all these Carolina Reaper, it was all mixed in a cauldron, and then they made these wings, right? So there was a challenge that if you ate like 6 or 8 of them, you got some amount of money, you got your picture taken. I knew I couldn't do that. I can't eat that. I mean, You saw me eat the chip the one time. I almost died. I had to drink buttermilk on air just straight out of the jug. It was gross. But I wanted to do one because it's just like, I'll try it. I want to see what it's like. Mm-hmm. And so I get one bite into it, and I just go into another world. I start having like a vision quest. I'm looking off into the horizon. There's video of it. Maybe I'll post it. I have to find it on Facebook from long ago. This is many, many years ago, but I'll find it and I'll post it. But I started looking into the middle distance, and my then girlfriend, fiance, I'm not sure if we were engaged then, now my wife, was across the table filming and laughing at me and said, after the first bite, she said, "You don't have to eat the rest of it." And I go, "I paid for it, didn't I?" That's, you can be overcommitted to the financials. I should have just put the wing away. Like at that point, I probably would have saved myself a lot of trouble in the bathroom later had I just put the wing away. So all that to say, this is a different regime that is thinking differently than the previous regime that was penny pinching and being both not committed enough to the financials and overcommitted to the financials. So yes, it's absolutely encouraging to see that they went out and got Dinwiddie, I think both for depth, but also because they really wanted to have a strong training camp. This was something I talked about on this show many, many times. When leaving that roster spot open, what you're doing, in effect, is saying, hey, the competition level is not very high because there's already an open roster spot. There's already a chair open. We can't even play musical chairs. The whole idea of musical chairs is there's one less chair, somebody's got to go. Okay, and that's what the Hornets did in this training camp, and I think it raised the competition level. It also said to the rookies, hey, by the way, there's this veteran right here. He wants your job, okay? So you better go out and get it, or he's going to take your job. Again, all that matters. All of that matters.
I agree with you, man. It's just these little small moves that you call them singles, doubles, and they mean more runs, even if you're not hitting home runs. They mean more runs. And no, I'm not talking about your chicken wing and what it meant for you. I'm talking about just scoring.
I was thinking it, and I didn't want to interrupt you because the comments get on me when I interrupt you. I'm so glad. We've been doing this a long time. I'm so glad you got there.
It's right there, man. We'll go with some doo-doo humor every now and then. But yes, it does matter. The fact that they did this, it's okay. We've been injured constantly. We're not going to let that be an excuse. And if it means we have to pay $3.5 million for it not to be an excuse, then we'll do that. And hey, maybe it does happen. Spencer Dinwiddie, now you're on the basketball team and nobody else gets to sign you. The other thing is the timing. Even while it was early, this was still not a very deep free agent pool. So it's not like you signed him at the expense of going after this really coveted center. It's not like Day'Ron Sharp was still out there. It's not like anybody else was still out there that would have been damn useful to the team. You made this move. The timing was nice. The payment was not $10 million. It's not the Trey Mann contract that you decided to light on fire. And so, yeah, I think this stuff matters just like you do. And now we're here. Knock on wood, baby, because we still have a handful of days before we get to the opener. So I understand there is some jinxing power that could be had here, but I'm knocking on wood.
This is impressive.
I know. It's
that's
scary.
A lot of knocking.
I'm scared, man, but you know what it is. I don't think the other regime would have done this, and it leaves me encouraged.
Did you hear Dell on the broadcast tempting fate, like talking about LaMelo Ball being injured in a preseason game against the Grizzlies? And Eric was like, "Why are you talking about it? Don't say it.
Yeah, right.
Don't talk about
that. Yeah, I know.
When Eric Collins tells you not to talk about something, like particularly I wouldn't call that a fun fact, but there was a Nito fact to bring up. When Eric Collins is telling you not to bring up a fact like that, you've done something wrong.
Okay, let's move on. Coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
Bees everywhere!
Sicko Satchel, I also have another point about the Hornets being more financially committed to the franchise. The Hornets owner, I should say, being more financially committed. Shocker, owner cares about his own team. That's still to come, LOH. This episode is brought to you by Wayfair. The holidays are going to be here before you know it, which is exciting. But getting your home ready for guests and celebrations, that can feel like a lot. Maybe your serveware needs a refresh or the guest room could use new bedding. Wayfair has everything you need to get your home holiday ready, from Christmas trees and wreaths to bedding, cookware, and outdoor inflatables. Oh, wow, outdoor inflatables. All right, we're really partying. It's your one-stop shop for every room in the house. Wayfair makes it easy to personalize your home for the holidays with a huge selection for every style and budget. And with free and easy delivery, even with the big stuff, you can get everything you need without the hassle of huge deliveries. I know, because I had my sectional delivered from Wayfair and it was fantastic. It was easy. It was easy to put together. It was great. Pleasant experience with Wayfair. Get organized, refreshed, and ready for the holidays for way less. Head to wayfair.com right now to shop all things home. That's Wayfair, wayfair.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. This episode is also brought to you by, Gametime. Gametime. Basketball season is officially here. It's close. I should say it's close. And nothing beats being in the arena for those opening games. But let's be real. Getting tickets can be a total headache. Between waiting in queues, surprise fees, and prices that jump right before checkout, it's easy to get frustrated when all you want to do is cheer on your team. That's where Game Time comes in, the app that gives the fans the advantage. It's your ultimate life hack for scoring amazing NBA tickets fast, and it's easy and it's stress-free. Take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's code LOCKEDONNBA, LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. More Locked On Hornets ahead. Last thing on the being more financially committed, this one probably a little bit more of a loosey-goosey take. I need to do more research on this, but it does feel like the Hornets, with all of the G League contracts they're handing out, for instance, I don't know how many people have noticed this or are online enough to notice the pattern that happens with these back end of the roster guys, but the Hornets are signing guys like Jonas Adu, who is the most recent signing, and then they're cutting him pretty immediately, right? And so the reason you do that is because you get to give them a bonus and they are a part of the organization. And then before you get to the regular season, you have their G League rights. So what you're doing is you're assembling your G League roster. And I don't remember the Hornets going about it this way, though. So okay, you're exercising that. That's great. I don't remember that. It doesn't mean you didn't do it, but cool. But you are like giving these guys money, and it's not a lot at all. Like, it's not a lot of money to give them a bonus for you to then just grab their G League rights. But at least you're not just taking the leftovers from everybody else's teams that are deciding to cut guys, and then you pounce on it like, oh my God, finally, thank God they threw out some sort of decent player. You're going out and getting these guys right now. And I don't know. I don't know if that's all that different from years past, but it feels different to me, Doug. I don't remember this whole pattern of signing guys and then immediately cutting them. They're going out and getting guys that they prioritize, and they're paying the money up front in order to get them in the system before they have free reign to go do whatever they want to. So I just felt like they're just, again, an example of some shrewd moves that the Hornets have made this offseason.
Yeah, I don't think that the previous regime never did anything like this. I won't go so far as to say that, but I'm confident that Jeff Peterson and Schlotkin are being much more aggressive about doing that. And I mean, I look at Moussa Diabate as a big example of that. And going outside of the normal avenues to acquire players, like players that might be kind of attached to another roster, but their rights can be acquired. Like going and getting those kinds of players, like Moussa had played a few games for the Clippers and was in their system, but the Hornets noticed something about him that the Clippers didn't need at the time or didn't notice, and they said, yoink. And so I like that. And I don't know if Adu is a yoink or not, but we're going to find out. And that's the whole thing, is that whether it's totally rooted in fact or feeling, it feels like for sure that they are being more aggressive and that they're playing the game in a way that maybe it hasn't felt in the past. And that's good to see.
It is. All right, Sicko Satchel time, or did you want to talk a little bit more about this most recent preseason game, Doug? Where do you want to go?
I think there were a few things. We may have time for one Sicko Satchel question by the end of this, but I do want to, there were a couple of things I think we left on the floor and some comments after the game, that because we recorded literally right after the game ended, so we didn't have time to get to those comments. But one thing that I wrote down in my notebook that I wanted to talk about is the fact that I'm pretty sure the Hornets might be good at slob plays now, sidelines out of bounds plays, these set pieces that for years under different coaches, different rosters, it just seemed year after year the Hornets had a difficult time, crunch time, middle of the game, beginning of the game, just getting the ball inbounds in a way that could set yourself up to make points. These set pieces, and particularly in crunch time, are important to winning basketball games. In this game against Memphis, I noted in the third quarter, 5:30 to go, you had LaMelo with like great inbounds awareness. So he's inbounding on the baseline. So this is a blob play. And Kalkbrenner's kind of setting a booty screen, but he's sort of like maybe going to get the inbounds. But he throws it to Kalkbrenner real quick and sort of fakes it and then throws it to Kalkbrenner and then gets to the corner really quick, Kalkbrenner throws it back to him, knocks down the three, followed 30 seconds later by LaMelo Ball to Miles Bridges for a sidelines out of bound dunk. And I'm like, wait, hold on.
Yeah.
Like, what's Charles Lee drawing up here? You know, so much of coaching, I think, lives in the ephemeral, motivational, because so much of the game now is played out of sets and more in like, all right, we have some actions that we're going to try, and then it all turns into jazz, reacting to what the defense gives you, on and on and on. It's not like it used to be. It used to be like set. I'm going to call the play in. The point guard's going to tell everyone else, and that's how we're going to run the offense. That's not how it is anymore. But on these set plays, that's a perfect example of like, you got to draw those up as a coach, and you got to make sure your team can execute them. And for at least this preseason game, they did. And I'll be looking at it this season to see if they improve.
And it makes sense that he would be good at that, Charles Lee being the person in question here, just because he has been good on ATOs, like in terms of designing some sets for his guys on plays that were after the timeout. So, yeah, I mean, it would make sense that you would be good if you're a schemer, then this would make sense in that regard. So, yeah.
I want a schemer. Mm-hmm. I want a schemer so bad.
Borrego was good at that, I will say. He was good. There were other things. The ephemeral part probably was the thing that did him in. But yes, the schemer stuff is good. A little lob on the slob, a little lob on my slob. I love it. Going to Miles Bridges, those alleys.
Blob into a slob.
Blob in the slob. I'm ready for it, baby. Sicko Satchel time. What you got?
Oh boy, I wasn't ready. I was diving into the game notes that I had.
3-6 Mafia lyrics. Is that what you were doing? I apologize. You know, sometimes.
See if I can get back to my rundown here, because I do have a couple of good Sicko Satchel questions. One from Bam Bam of the 21st Ricky Pierce Division, a.k.a. the Flying Big Paper Daddy. Salute to the Sicko Brigade. Join subtext.com/Locked On Hornets if you want a free trial it and submit your question to the Sicko Satchel. Here's Bam Bam. Who would start past versus present? Last 10 years of former Hornets, whether we traded them away or we didn't re-sign them, versus our current roster. So here's the sort of example that he gives. Nick Richards versus any combination of our three current centers. Like, you taking Nick Richards or you taking the three current centers? Let me tell you what Bam Bam thinks, and then you can share your thoughts. Bam Bam says, in my opinion, it's Nick. Even with his stone hands, he's probably not closing out the games because basically he's another plum dog with better hair, but you're still taking Nick.
Okay, man. Nick Richards, out of all the guys, all right, I'm cool with it. I'd go somewhere different. Steve Clifford would probably go somewhere different, but Nick Richards, that's the answer for Bam Bam. And what Bam Bam says, I respect. A couple guys come to mind. Center position is where you start. I'm not going to lie, Doug. I'd like to have Cody Zeller on this team. Cody Zeller is somebody that I would bring into the fold with this squad. I feel like little pick and roll with LaMelo, the athleticism, the running, as long as he stayed healthy. If you could guarantee me that he'd stay healthy, that would have to go a long way in choosing him. But bring me that beautiful bald spot with Cody Zeller helping us out at center.
You have plenty of guys who are putting up and capable of putting up monster box score numbers. Like, if they can keep this thing going like in Memphis. So they can afford to have a player that doesn't do it in the box score ever. Mm-hmm. That would be fine on this particular team.
Can I go with another? There are two names that immediately came to mind. The other one outside of Cody Zeller, Marvin Williams at 4. So you have I know Miles Bridges there at 4, but if you had LaMelo, Brandon Miller, so LaMelo, Brandon, Miles, Marvin, Musa, now you can stretch out. You still don't have enough height, but I think Marvin would help this team, just being leader, defensive player, 3-point shooter. All of that would be useful for this squad.
I mean, you starting Kemba? You going Kemba, LaMelo, Brandon?
Well, Kemba felt like, I don't know. Maybe I overlooked it. Maybe I played this game.
That's to me, it's the most interesting one, right? Because you've got Kemba, and you're taking. I'm going to just assume here that Bam Bam is going to give us the absolute best version of Kemba Walker to answer the question with, and I think you would be forced. Like, he was so good that you would say Kemba, LaMelo. I mean, you're gonna you're going to need to really
it.
figure out your back line defensively. But, I mean, offensively, you're going to be really hard to stop.
Is it funny that we don't have a great center option to go with? Cody Zeller is the best option of the last 10 years. Who else do we go with? Can't think of anybody else.
It's tough because, I mean, yeah, people would go, wait a minute, Al, but Al, like, I can't believe it's been 10 years. This question is depressing me for a reason that I didn't expect, which is that it reminds me that 10 years ago was, we're 15, 16. We're into the 10-year mark since the last playoff. And that was really the last gasp of Al Jefferson. He did make an impact in that playoff series against Miami, but we all knew. We knew it was the end.
Yeah, I mean, it was even. He wasn't even starting. It was Cody that was starting. He was coming off of the bench, so that's why. Yeah,
you take that. How about that Dwight year?
Yeah, I don't know about all that.
It disrupts too much. Although
what a weird season.
Although, like LaMelo and that Dwight, like not Dwight now, but LaMelo and that Dwight. I don't know.
I mean, the thing about that Dwight is there was enough going on behind the scenes where it didn't seem like Kemba liked Dwight and Kemba likes everybody.
Nick Batum, I'll tell you, Nick Batum did not enjoy that experience.
No, he did not. So if people didn't like playing with Dwight, then that would be the issue.
Who would not like Brandon probably wouldn't like it. Miles probably be okay with it. LaMelo,
I don't know, man. I don't know. He's asking for so many post-up ops. I mean, that's not they don't want that. Yeah, I mean, he'd be great at rebounding, but no, they don't want that. The Kemba one, so basically you would be just choosing talent. Who's the best player of the last 10 years? You'd go with Kemba, and you would say, you would take all NBA level Kemba, and you would say, that's hard to, look, I don't care if there's positional overlap. If we're allowed Kemba in this and there's no rules suggesting otherwise, you probably have to take the dude that was a top 15 player for an entire season, his 1 year here. We got to start winning.
We got to start winning soon because I think we're gonna. If it doesn't happen soon, I feel like we're Back to the Future and Kemba is like disappearing off of the photograph, like because there's been nothing to celebrate in a weird way. I just feel like I don't think you and I are, but I think there is going to be some forgetting of like just how special. I just encourage everyone, if you got some free time, to just go and remind yourself, because there's no other reason to watch the Hornets in that era because they didn't win any playoff series.
Right.
But just go and watch some Kemba highlights and remind yourself that dude was there were moments and games where he was unstoppable. And he could do things on a basketball court that really made your jaw drop. And in fact, Eric Collins, I just recently saw an interview that he did.
Yep.
And he said that like when he, as he was first starting as broadcaster, like Kemba was what lit him up in terms of like attaching himself to a product that he could get excited about, that he could get fans excited about as a broadcaster. And I mean, I don't know. He didn't say it verbatim, but like Kemba's might be part of the reason why Eric Collins is still here and will continue, even though he's gotten scooped up by Amazon, is going to continue to do Hornets games this season because Eric Collins fell in love with the Hornets and fell in love with the city, partly because of Kemba.
If you want to go watch Kemba, if you want the full Hornets experience, just go watch the Kemba 60-point performance against Philly, and they still lose in overtime. So you get your typical pain, you get your L, but you get a great Kemba performance. That's probably the best example of peak Hornets basketball. All right, that'll do it for Locked On Hornets. Thanks for making us your first listen. We're free and available anywhere you get your pods. That includes YouTube, everyhornetsboxscore.com. Go check it out. Yahoo Sports Daily. Go check that out with Jason Fitz and Caroline Fenton. And I'm Walker Mail. Listen to me, WFNZ, every weekday from 12 to 3 p.m. Sports Radio 92.7 FM. Have a great rest of your day. We'll be back with you tomorrow.